This is an ultimate global podcast. Hello, and welcome to our Daily Dose podcast, covering all about day-to-day global affairs. You're listening to Saurabh Kora and George Mavros from Sydney.
Hello and a very good evening to everyone who's joining us this wonderful afternoon, wonderful spring afternoon in Sydney, with the beautiful flowers blossoming in the atmosphere outside in front of me. And today on the Friday's Daily Dose on international education, international students, we have got this topic of inner peace that helps you to deliver external clarity and how important it is for you to realize and self introspect your own self to achieve more clarity on what you want to do in the environment and give back to the society through the work that you put in. We are doing this episode in collaboration with ETSI Consulting, being run by George itself. So, what a brilliant way to collaborate with ETSI this afternoon, George.
Lovely to be here with my two hats on. And good to see you again. Love that shirt, by the way, nice and colourful.
Thank you so much. So, what are your general thoughts, not only for the students who might be listening to us, but for people in general on this particular topic?
So, as you know, I talk about having inner peace, and I've had it for since the age of about 42. And why am I so specific on that time? Because I did a course back when I was 42, which was from a gentleman called Bob Proctor. And he had a course and he has a book, and it's called You Were Born Rich. And it was when I read that book and when I went through that course, both the cassettes and actually did a version of it with somebody out here in Australia. Bob Proctor's from Canada. It was when I finally became at one with me. And from that moment on, I've never ever tried to be anything else other than the best version of me. I'm not trying to be like Richard Branson. I'm not trying to be like Mother Teresa. I'm not trying to be like the Pele or anybody. I just want to be the best version of me in the various things. So I'm involved in charity, I'm involved in sport, I'm involved in business. But I try to be the best version of me. And on that basis, I'm at ease because I'm not trying to compete with anybody else other than me. When you get to that stage, when you stop competing with yourself, you are then able to go out and deal with whatever comes your way in a given day. But if you don't know who you are, and if you don't know what you stand for, and if you don't know where you've been and you don't know where you're going to, there is no way that you're going to have a calm and easy life ahead of you because you're in turmoil.
Absolutely. And, it's so important for you to stop comparing yourself with others, but instead compare yourself with who you were on the previous day and try to become a better self of yours tomorrow, isn't it?
Yes, 100%.
And I think you have been focusing on a lot of lessons through your talks in the previous conversation as well as to how important it is for you to improve your inner self introspect yourself, so that you can understand what are your key strengths and what are your key weaknesses, so that you can exactly improve upon those things instead of looking on to the other version of someone else to whom you cannot replicate.
Yeah. And I'm a firm believer that we all have God-given gifts. For me, I say God-given gifts because I believe in God. Others will call it whatever. But we can't have everything. You can't get everything. So I don't have the gift of singing like many people can sing. I don't have the gift of doing art, painting like others do. but I have a gift of working with people. I have a gift of talking. I have a gift of understanding and negotiating with people. So what you do in that same way, I may not be strong in every aspect of being a good business manager or a good husband or a good brother or a good child or a good whatever. So you try to manage the things that you're not the best at and really work hard on the things that you are the best at. So if I say to the people watching this, for me, I don't try to learn all about podcasts and all of that. That's your expertise. And so you're managing what I'm not that strong on. Okay. So rather than me try to compete with you and try to learn as much as you do, no. I can provide this, you can provide that, this person can provide something else. And if you see yourself as part of the community and you see yourself as part of a chain, then the whole thing comes together. But if everybody wants to be at the front or everybody wants to be in the second seat from the left, it's not going to work. So you strengthen what you're good at and you manage what you're not good at. Now, that doesn't mean you don't try to improve, but don't beat yourself up. I could practice for the next 50 years and I'm still not going to be good at art, and I'll be better than I am, and I'll be better at singing than I am now if I practice, but I will never be at that level. And so I'm better off enjoying other people's art and music and doing what I do best.
Yeah, and it's always about that collective effort that brings in the best results. As you know, I always say that alone you always fail, together you succeed. You cannot have all the strengths, you cannot have all the weaknesses, but what it does is when you bring different people having different traits, skill set, and strengths together in one team, you are able to compensate your weaknesses by utilizing someone else's strengths. Because at the end of the day, you have to understand that you're not 100% perfect. Nobody is 100% perfect. So what you can do in a team is, if somebody is good in graphic designing, you can have one person from there. Somebody is good in marketing, somebody is good in IT, somebody is good in public speaking, somebody is good in different kind of things. So as a team, when you come together and make you understand this fact that in the society these teams exist and they coexist together, when you come together and develop something for the society, you cannot have everything. And that's where I think that inner peace has to come into place, by understanding that even if you are skilled in some things, you need to try to make use of that instead of focusing on, oh, he's a good singer, she's a good singer, she can play football well, I can't do that. Maybe you're not made for that, you are made for something else. So looking at your inner peace and thus developing your external clarity, I think it's a fantastic topic to discuss upon, George.
Well, inner peace is really about self-acceptance. It's about being able to look yourself in the eye when nobody else is around and be able to say to yourself honestly and truthfully. Now, many people say it, but they don't say it honestly and truthfully. If you can say honestly and truthfully, I've made a genuine effort, I've done the best I can in whatever it is, then that's all that can be expected of you, right? And to be comfortable in what you do. Now, as you know, I teach a couple of techniques for making decisions. When I use my techniques and when I make a decision, I am comfortable to accept, or as we say now, own my decision. So if I make a decision and something goes wrong, I accept that was my decision. Right? I don't say, oh, because of this or because... No. That's the decision I made. I own it. Okay? And when you can do that, you then don't try to impress everybody. You don't try to be everybody's friend. You don't try to do all things to all people, because you can't. You can't, right? But if you can be honest with yourself and you can be true to yourself, then you can be honest and true to the next person. then you can be honest and true to the next person and the next person and the next person. So you may not agree with me all the time. You may not like my decisions all the time, but you can always be assured they are my decisions, and I believe that the decision I made was the right decision. If
Absolutely.
you get to that stage, then you're not beating up on yourself. You just accept whatever comes your way, comes your way.
Yeah, and one of the best things that you touched base upon is the acceptance of the fact that if you have committed a mistake, you need to accept that instead of bringing in your ego or arrogance in front of that. Because what it might do is you might continue to repeat that mistake again and again instead of taking lessons from it. And if you don't take lessons from your mistakes, you will never be able to grow yourself. And that's where it links to the growth mindset as well. When you want to grow yourself and explore new things, come out of where you are currently, it's important also for you to accept the fact that you are wrong and that you need to improve. Once you do that, you can then move to the next level, isn't it?
Yeah. The other thing is self-acceptance and inner peace means that you are controlling your ego and emotions. So if you go onto the internet any day of any week, of any month, of any year for the last 10 years, there'll be 10,000 people saying, if you're not earning $100,000 a year, you've failed. You need to have a brand new car. Why aren't you getting 30 new clients a day? All this nonsense. Right? Now, when is enough enough? Because for me, the way I look at success is from the students that I teach. It's from the people that I help. And if I get some dollars along the way, that's nice. And yes, I want some money and I need money, but I don't need a brand new car to succeed. I don't need a brand new house to prove that I'm a success. I don't need to charge ridiculous fees just to feel important. I don't need to spend a lot of money on shirts and suits and all of that. I don't spend a lot of money. But that gives me more money to give to charity. So does that mean that I disagree with anybody that wants to earn more money than me? No, I don't disagree at all. But I don't compare myself and say, well, he's a success or she's a success and I'm a failure. You know, inner peace is about being at one with yourself. And one of my sayings, this is who I am. This is what I stand for. If it doesn't suit you, enjoy the coffee, walk on by. Now, that's not being rude. I'm just saying, if what I am and what I do and what I offer isn't to your liking, that's okay. Move along. But I'm not a chameleon. I don't have to change every minute to fit in with the next person. Whereas people that don't have the inner peace and people that don't have the self-confidence, they're forever chopping and changing, and they're trying to, they make a decision and then somebody says something, they change the decision. And then somebody says something. Like, you can't be like that. Not if you want to be chilled. And as you know, my lovely wife Sharon says, from the moment she met me, she knows I don't do drama. I just do not do drama. If people didn't spend half the time worrying about what's going wrong, they would have double the time to try and make sure it doesn't go wrong. If you didn't spend half the time worrying, you have double the time to put your mind to it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's so true, George. If you look at in other perspective as well, that sometimes we are just wasting a lot of time worrying about unnecessary things in our life. At teenage, it can be something related to your university studies, or it can be related to your job prospects. Once you get married, it might be something related to your wife or children. But then it also comes to the fact that if you can look at the other side of the coin and start looking at the optimistic lens, start looking at it from an optimistic lens, you can learn a lot of new things, and you can change the way you think. We talked about transformative thinking few days back. So changing the way you think about one situation can determine how well you are aligned with your inner peace.
Yeah. And you should never, ever, ever, ever live your life in fear, because living in fear means that you're worried about things that haven't even occurred yet. I'm fearful that this may happen. I'm fearful that that may happen. It sounds silly, but it is actually true, because if you stop and think about it, if you're walking towards the edge of the cliff and you're fearful about falling over the cliff because it hasn't happened, once you fall over the cliff, it's happened. So now you're fearful about the next thing and the next thing. So fear is all about worrying about things in the future. If you work on dealing with what the challenge is, then you're not working from a fearful perspective, you're working from a positive perspective. And so you start to say, how can I prevent this from happening? What can I do to minimize this? Now, you can't go through life and expect that there's never ever going to be something that goes wrong, and there's never ever going to be accidents, and there's never ever going to be doing that. But you can minimize the impact or mitigate the situation. So if you stop and think about it, if you're going down the street on a push bike in thongs, a t-shirt, a pair of shorts and no helmet, if you come off that bike, life is not going to be good. So whereas if you still want to ride the bike and you put some good clothes on and you've got a helmet, then you dramatically improve your chances. If something does go wrong, you're not going to be as badly hurt. Okay? Jump out of a plane with a parachute, jump out of a plane without one. I know who gets there fastest, but they're not really healthy when they get there.
Yep. You touched based upon an important point there where you are talking about course correction. You might be going wrong somewhere. We also discussed about acceptance of the thing that if you are wrong, accept the fact that you are wrong. And also this another fact of course correction. So on your path, you might find several areas where you have to revamp your strategies, re-strategize what you are doing. A lot of things we re-strategized for Ultimate Global Podcast. We had a different intention on 30th of August when we launched. After a week, we re-strategized it. It was something different. After 1 month, we again re-strategized it. It was again something different. So I think, as you also say that if you have started moving towards the north direction, you can still think of moving northeast, northwest, unless and until you see that it's still in the right line and it's still aligned with your initial vision that you had for that particular project or whatever you are doing.
A lot of people that struggle with making decisions are scared that if I make a decision, I'll be wrong. So they think by not making a decision, they're not going to make a wrong decision. But that in itself is wrong. No, the decision was you didn't make a decision. That was the wrong decision. A lot of people that make a decision then find it very hard to change the decision, because if they change it, they believe that means that they must have been wrong, and they don't want to admit to themselves that they've made a mistake. I have a different approach to that. I make a decision today based on the information available to me today. And given the information that I've got today, I make a decision. Now, tomorrow, next week, or next month, there may be different information that's available to me that wasn't available to me back then. So now I have to reconsider my decision. If you stop and think about your decisions and you make decisions based on your inner peace and who you are, more often than not, you will not have to change the decisions unless something else occurs. So I make a decision because I think it's right. I think I'd make a decision because it's ethical. I'm thinking I'm making a decision because I think it's fair. if some information comes after the event that doesn't change it being ethical, doesn't change it being fair, and doesn't change it being right, then I don't change the decision. But if other information comes in that alters that, well, then I reassess it. So it's about being comfortable with who you are, what you do, and the decisions you make. And it's about making good decisions. More often than not, people that make very quick decisions make many decisions, because they very quickly say this, and then they say that, and then they say that, and then they say this, and then they say that. People that take a little bit longer and give it a lot more thought and apply my theory of Mavros and my theory of 10 to 7, you don't change your decisions very often, and you're comfortable that was the right decision at the time. And hopefully it's the right decision down the track too.
And also, George, before we end today's Daily Dose, what do you think can be some of the key learnings that people can take away from this session, where we have discussed about a lot of things? But what, according to you, can different people, there can be some learnings for the students, some learning for the people who are beyond that. So they have already been working in organizations for a couple of years, and they want to still achieve inner peace. They are still in competition with a lot of people. And they feel that they're competing with people, right? Again, putting it in a different way, because what your theory suggests is that it's not about competition. It's about, there is a new terminology these days we use for companies, which is called, which is a mix of collaboration and competition, where you also want to collaborate with others, where you also want to compete with others. It's a mix of both that really helps you to succeed further, isn't it?
Yeah. So the thing that drives me, and I believe that most people, if you speak to most people that talk about being at ease, inner peace, calm with themselves, accepting themselves, all those, whatever variation we give of this same feeling. So what drives me is honesty and integrity ahead of expediency. Now, expediency is as in doing something fast, or you have to do it. I have to do it because, so if you make a decision that's honest, if you make a decision that is in tune with your personal integrity, that may mean that you're going to make money or lose money, make a friend or lose a friend, win a deal or lose a deal, get a position or not. But if you're honest and you have integrity and you let that drive you ahead of expediency, then we'll have a lot more people looking after people, unlike the corporates who have been involved in all sorts of things, and the corrupt politicians. Because the corrupt politicians, they're not making a decision based on honesty and integrity. They're making a decision based on expediency, right? Once you start making decisions that are right for you, and you will own that decision, whatever it is. Do I get out of bed this morning, or do I stay in bed this morning? Do I take this job? Do I not take this job? Once you get to that, then whatever comes after that, you're happy to accept it, because it truly is your decision. But if everything you're doing is just driven by our external, then you can't possibly be, you can't be at ease until the rest of the world says you can relax. And if the rest of the world says you can't relax, you can't. One of the things that Nelson Mandela said when they put him in prison, he said, they had my body, but I would not give them my heart or my soul. So they couldn't take that from him. So he was still at ease, even though he was in treacherous, terrible conditions. But that didn't stop him being who he was.
Absolutely.
And another one of my sayings that I love telling people, you may not be able to control the situation you find yourself in, but you and you alone are responsible for your reaction to it. So don't tell anybody, oh, he made me do that or she made me do that. No, if you made the decision, you have to accept that it was you that made the decision. Once you
Mhm.
get to that level, whatever decision you make, again, people say to me, I don't agree. I said, that's okay. From where I sat, it's the right decision.
Absolutely. And while we were discussing about growth mindset few days back, there was the CEO of Campus Consultancy, Josh Farr, who joined us, and he also talked about this point that the difference between a growth mindset and fixed mindset is that in a growth mindset, the locus of the responsibility lies within you, and you feel that you are the sole responsibility because of any wrong and right decision that you make. Whereas in case of a fixed mindset, the locus of the responsibility lies on people outside or your
Yep.
external surroundings, because you feel that I'm not the person who is responsible. It's that other person who is responsible for whatever is happening with me. So he described it in a very interesting way, and that really created a lot of key insights coming out of that session if you missed out on that.
Mhm.
Any final takeaways, George, before we wrap up with the session today?
Final takeaways. Well, again, I would just say to people, if you stop trying to be like somebody else, by all means have a role model. I have plenty of role models, but I'm not trying to be them. I'm trying to be my version of them and be the best version of yourself. When you get to that and you accept yourself, and you will have faults and you will make mistakes, but you'll also have good points and you won't make mistakes. You'll make some great decisions. Just accept that that's who you are and that's what you do, and then try and learn from each and every one of them.
Perfect.
So,
Thank you so much, George, for joining us today for this interesting discussion. I hope that you all found it interesting. Feel free to post your comments and suggestions for us for the future podcast sessions as well. And also, don't forget to join us on Instagram Live tomorrow for an interesting discussion that we will be having, especially for fans who are based in South Asia, because we know that the ICC 2020 Cricket World Cup has now started and the craziness around it has already begun. And we have got a very big match coming up this Sunday, India versus Pakistan. And I know that people and millions of fans on both the sides are so much crazy about that match. And we also have an Instagram live session tomorrow with an on this topic of India versus Pakistan. So you can join us on Instagram live. Post your comments there. Whom do you think can be winning that match, and whom do you think can be winning this World Cup? Sitting in Australia, I'm still supporting India, by the way. But you know that the top two teams, according to me, should be India and Australia in that final that I want to see, because I feel that those two are the strongest teams. And what is your prediction, by the way, George? Are you in touch with cricket these days, or you don't have time for that?
actually, cricket snuck up on me this year. I'm not a hard dyed in the wool fan, but I do like to watch it. I saw something the other day about David Warner having a bad run at blah blah blah, and I didn't even know what he was playing in. I've had so much happening with the students and other things that you and I are involved with. I haven't even looked at it so far, and probably with the workload that I've got to in my charity work and things like that, I probably won't be looking at it for another week or so. So hopefully it goes long enough for me to be able to catch up, and maybe we'll have a talk about that next week.
Sure. Thank you so much, George, for joining us. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. See
Thank you, my
you.
friend. Goodbye, everyone.
See ya. Bye.